Liebchen, she has no idea what we're planning. The words drifted from my husband's study as I stood frozen in our hallway, grocery bags cutting into my palms. Kevin spoke in fluid German, his voice carrying that warm tone he used to reserve for me. A woman's laughter followed, bright and careless. You're certain she doesn't understand? The female voice responded in the same language. Rachel, she barely remembers her high school Spanish. German is completely beyond her. My heart hammered against my ribs. For 3 years, I had kept my language skills hidden. My grandmother had been born in Berlin, raising me on German fairy tales and folk songs. After she passed, I'd maintained my fluency privately, listening to podcasts during my commute, reading German novels on my tablet. Kevin had never asked about my grandmother's heritage. He'd never been interested. I set the groceries down silently and pulled out my phone, opening the voice recording app. My hands didn't shake. They should have, but they didn't. My name is Rachel Morrison, and I'm 37 years old. Until this moment, I'd believed my marriage to Kevin was solid, if somewhat predictable. We'd been together for 13 years, married for 10. No children by choice, focusing instead on our careers and travels. I worked as a medical research coordinator at Valley General Hospital, managing clinical trials and patient data. Kevin was a senior financial analyst at Hoffman & Associates, a prestigious investment firm. His career had always been the priority. I'd turned down 3 promotions that would have required relocation because Kevin insisted his position was less flexible. Standing in that hallway, listening to him plot in a language he believed I couldn't comprehend, I realized how thoroughly I'd been played. The late nights at work, the business trips to Munich and Frankfurt, the new cologne he'd started wearing 6 months ago, all those red flags I'd explained away. I moved closer to the study door, holding my phone steady. The timing is perfect, Kevin continued in German. The Zurich account is nearly ready. Another 2 months and everything transfers. What about the house? The woman asked. It's in both names, but I've been documenting her spending habits. The shopping, the spa treatments. My attorney says we can argue she's financially irresponsible. I almost laughed. My shopping consisted of buying supplies for the free clinic where I volunteered twice monthly. The spa treatments were birthday gifts from my sister. Meanwhile, Kevin had purchased a luxury sedan last year and joined an exclusive golf club with a $50,000 membership fee. And she won't suspect anything before the anniversary trip, the woman pressed. Chloe, relax. Rachel thinks we're celebrating in Paris. She's already bought new luggage. She has no idea I've canceled everything and rerouted the funds. Our 15th anniversary trip. I'd been planning it for months, saving my vacation days. Kevin had seemed enthusiastic, even helping me choose hotels. My phone kept recording as they continued. Chloe was his administrative assistant, recently transferred from the Frankfurt office. I'd met her once at a company dinner, remembered her perfect smile and practiced charm. She'd complimented my dress while apparently sleeping with my husband. The partnership announcement is next week, Kevin said. Once I make senior partner, the salary increase alone will be substantial. Combined with the offshore accounts, we'll be comfortable in Switzerland. I can't wait to leave this city, Chloe sighed. No more pretending, no more sneaking around. Just a little longer. After the anniversary date, I'll tell her I want a divorce. By then, the important assets will be protected. She'll get the house and maybe some retirement funds, but the real money will be untouchable. I'd heard enough. Silently, I backed away from the door, grabbed the groceries, and walked loudly toward the kitchen. Kevin, I'm home, I called in English, my voice cheerful. The study door opened. Kevin emerged, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in English now. Yes, I'll have those reports Monday. Thanks for calling. He smiled at me, that familiar, easy smile. Hey, honey, how was the grocery run? Fine. They had those German sausages you like on sale. I emphasized the word slightly, watching for any reaction. Nothing. Great, I'm starving. He kissed my cheek, and I forced myself not to flinch. I need to finish some work before dinner. Is an hour okay? Perfect. I'll make that sauerbraten you love." His eyes lit up. "You're the best. What would I do without you?" I smiled back. "I guess we'll never have to find out." As he returned to his study, I began unpacking groceries with mechanical precision. My mind was already racing ahead, planning. Kevin thought he was 3 moves ahead, but he'd made one critical error. He'd underestimated me. I pulled out my laptop and opened a secure browser. First, I needed to understand exactly what Kevin had been doing. Then I needed protection. And finally, I needed my own plan. The sauerbraten could wait. I had work to do. That evening, I played the dutiful wife perfectly. Dinner conversation flowed easily, covering safe topics like his upcoming partnership announcement and my latest clinical trial. Kevin mentioned nothing about Switzerland or Chloe or secret accounts. "I'm excited about Paris," I said, refilling his wine glass. "Only 3 weeks away." "Me too. It'll be perfect." He reached across the table, squeezing my hand. The gesture that once would have warmed me now felt calculated. After dinner, while Kevin watched television, I retreated to our guest room with my laptop. I'd transferred the recording to a secure cloud account, then created multiple backups. The conversation was clear, damning, and completely admissible since it occurred in our shared home. Next, I began researching divorce attorneys. Not just any attorneys. I needed someone who specialized in complex financial cases involving hidden assets and international transfers. Someone who wouldn't be intimidated by Kevin's expensive legal team. I found her at midnight. Victoria Brennan, highly rated for cases involving offshore accounts and asset concealment. Her website featured several high-profile cases with impressive results. Monday morning, I called Victoria's office from my car during lunch break. Her receptionist scheduled a consultation for Wednesday afternoon. I'd tell Kevin I had a dentist appointment. At work, I functioned on autopilot, managing patient files and coordinating with research teams. My colleague, Dr. Amy Sutherland, noticed my distraction. "Everything okay?" she asked during our afternoon meeting. "Just tired. Kevin's been working late a lot." Amy nodded sympathetically. She'd been through her own divorce 3 years ago. "If you ever need to talk," she offered. "Thanks, I'll remember that." That evening, Kevin came home excited. "The partnership's official. Announcement goes out Friday, but they told me today." He was practically glowing. "Congratulations. We should celebrate." "Definitely. How about that new German restaurant downtown? I'll make reservations for Saturday." The irony wasn't lost on me. "Sounds wonderful." While he called the restaurant, I excused myself to the bathroom and checked my secure email. I'd started documenting everything: his schedule, phone records I could access, credit card statements, building my case. Wednesday's consultation with Victoria exceeded my expectations. She was sharp, direct, and immediately grasped the situation's complexity. "The recording is excellent evidence," she said, reviewing my documentation. "In this state, single-party consent laws protect you, and the fact that they discussed hiding marital assets gives us strong grounds for forensic accounting." "How long will this take?" "That depends on how thoroughly he's hidden things. But Rachel, I need you to be patient. We need to gather complete documentation before we file. If he suspects anything, he'll accelerate his plans." "So I pretend everything's normal." "Exactly. Can you do that?" I thought about Kevin's smile, his casual deception, his dismissal of my intelligence. "Yes, I can do that." Victoria outlined our strategy. First, we'd hire a forensic accountant to trace Kevin's finances. Second, we'd document all marital assets in detail. Third, we'd wait until right before the anniversary trip to file, catching him off guard. "The element of surprise is crucial," Victoria explained. "He thinks he's controlling the timeline. We'll prove otherwise." I signed the retainer agreement and left her office feeling powerful for the first time in days. That Saturday, Kevin and I dined at Zum Adler, the new German restaurant. The irony of the situation was almost too much. We were surrounded by German conversations, German music, German Daker, and Kevin had no idea I understood every word around us. Our waiter, an older man with a thick accent, chatted pleasantly in German with the table beside us. Kevin smiled tolerantly, clearly not understanding. "The food here is supposed to be authentic," Kevin said. "My colleague Klaus recommended it." Klaus, another name I'd heard in that overheard conversation, mentioned as someone who'd helped set up the Swiss accounts. "It's lovely," I agreed, studying the menu. Every dish name, every description, I understood it all. Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Forensic accountant found something. Call me Monday." I excused myself to the restroom, my heart racing. In the mirror, I studied my reflection. Same auburn hair, same green eyes, but something had changed. I looked harder, more determined. When I returned, Kevin was on his phone, typing rapidly. He quickly put it away. "Work emergency, nothing serious." The forensic accountant, Harold, called me Monday during my lunch break. His findings were worse than I'd imagined. "Your husband has been systematically moving money for almost 2 years, Harold explained. "Small transfers at first, then larger amounts. 3 separate offshore accounts in Switzerland and 1 in the Cayman Islands. Total amount is approaching $1.2 million. My hands went cold. That's more than half our savings. Plus the equity he withdrew from your joint investment accounts. Mrs. Morrison, your husband has been planning this for a long time. Can you trace everything?" "Already done. I have complete documentation, including the account numbers and transaction dates. The Swiss accounts are trickier to access directly, but the paper trail is solid. Any competent judge will see what he's done." I thanked Harold and sat in my car, staring at nothing. $1.2 million. Years of our combined salaries, my inheritance from my grandmother, the life we'd supposedly been building together. Kevin had stolen it all while I'd trusted him completely. That evening, he suggested we start planning our Paris trip in detail. "I want everything perfect," he said. "Me too." 3 weeks until the anniversary trip. I moved through my days in a strange dual existence. At work, I was competent and focused. At home, I was the loving wife, discussing Paris itineraries and 15-year marriage milestones. Internally, I was planning my own surprise. Victoria had advised documenting everything, so I did. I photographed every financial document in Kevin's study when he worked late. I saved every credit card statement, every bank notification. I noted every time he came home smelling of Chloe's perfume. The partnership announcement had made Kevin insufferable. He'd already started spending money more freely, buying expensive watches and talking about upgrading his car again. "We can afford it now," he said when I mildly questioned the spending. "Don't worry about money, Rachel, that's my job." My job, apparently, was to remain ignorant and compliant. One evening, while Kevin was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message in German from Chloe. "Can't wait until this charade is over. Love you." I photographed it and sent it to my secure account, added it to my growing evidence file. 2 weeks before the trip, Victoria called with an update. "We're ready to file whenever you give the word. Harold's documentation is ironclad. The forensic accounting report alone will destroy any credibility Kevin might have." "What about the offshore accounts?" "We're filing a motion to freeze all assets immediately upon serving papers. He won't be able to move anything once the court gets involved. We're also requesting emergency temporary orders to maintain the status quo." "When should we do this?" "I'd recommend the Friday before your scheduled departure. He'll be at work, confident everything is proceeding according to his plan. We'll have him served at his office." The thought of Kevin's face when he received those papers filled me with satisfaction. "Let's do it." "One more thing," Victoria added. "I'd suggest moving your personal items out beforehand. Anything with sentimental value, important documents, that sort of thing. Do it gradually so he doesn't notice." Over the next week, I systematically removed my grandmother's jewelry, photo albums, important papers. I rented a small storage unit across town and filled it methodically. Kevin noticed nothing. 10 days before Paris, Kevin suggested we have dinner with Chloe and her boyfriend. Team building, he called it. She's been invaluable with the partnership transition. I agreed, curious to see them interact in person. We met at an upscale steakhouse downtown. Chloe arrived alone. The boyfriend was supposedly out of town. She was younger than I'd thought, maybe 29. Pretty in a calculated way, with the kind of blonde highlights that cost hundreds of dollars to maintain. She greeted Kevin with a professional handshake, then turned to me with a warm smile. "Mrs. Morrison, it's so nice to see you again. Kevin talks about you constantly." "All good things, I hope." "Always, he's so devoted to you." The performance was impressive. They barely looked at each other during dinner, maintaining perfect professional distance. But I caught the small things, how Chloe knew Kevin's drink preference without asking, how their hands brushed when passing the bread basket, how they shared private smiles over inside jokes. Under the table, I clenched my fists. Soon, I reminded myself, very soon. That night, Kevin was affectionate in a way he hadn't been for months. Guilt, I realized. Some part of him knew what he was planning was wrong, and he was trying to assuage his conscience. I played along, but my mind was already in the future. In 1 week, everything would change. The next morning, I met with Victoria for our final strategy session. "We're filing at 9 a.m. Friday," she confirmed. "The process server will deliver papers to Kevin at his office around 10. The motion for temporary orders will be heard Monday morning." "What should I expect?" "He'll probably try to contact you immediately. Don't answer. Don't engage. Let all communication go through me. If he shows up at the house, don't let him in. You have every right to change the locks once he's served." "Will he be angry?" Victoria smiled grimly. "He'll be furious. Men like Kevin don't handle losing control well. But Rachel, you have the evidence, the law, and the truth on your side. He has nothing but lies and stolen money." I left her office feeling simultaneously terrified and exhilarated. The week crept by slowly. Kevin was busy at work, preparing for a major client presentation. He came home late most nights, offering perfunctory kisses and distracted conversation. Perfect. It meant he wasn't paying attention to me. Thursday evening, I packed the last of my important items. My clothes stayed in the closet. I'd retrieve them later, but everything meaningful was now safely in storage. I also opened my own checking account at a different bank, transferring my latest paycheck into it. Victoria had advised keeping my finances completely separate once we filed. That night, I barely slept. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Kevin would learn that underestimating me was his biggest mistake. He woke up Friday morning cheerful, humming while he showered. "Big day," he said. "The Hoffman presentation is this afternoon. Want to celebrate tonight?" "Sure, whatever you want." "Perfect, I'll text you later." He kissed my forehead, grabbed his briefcase, and left. I waited until his car disappeared, then called Victoria. "It's time." "Already filed. Process server is on his way to Kevin's office now." I sat in our kitchen, drinking coffee, watching the clock. 10:15. He'd have the papers by now. My phone exploded at 10:20. 14 missed calls from Kevin in 5 minutes. Then the text started. "What the hell is this? Call me now. Rachel, this is insane. We need to talk." "You can't do this. I'll fight this." I silenced my phone and set it face down on the counter. Victoria had been right. He was panicking. At 11, Kevin's mother called. I let it go to voicemail, then his sister, then his brother. Word was spreading through his family quickly. Victoria called at noon. The temporary hearing is scheduled for Monday at 9. Kevin's attorney already tried to negotiate. I told him we're not interested in negotiation until we have complete financial disclosure. How did Kevin react to the papers? According to the process server, he went white, then red, then started shouting. Security had to escort him out of the building. His firm is apparently not pleased about the disruption. Good, let him feel some consequences. I spent the afternoon at my sister's house, explaining everything. Anne had never particularly liked Kevin, though she'd hidden it well for my sake. I knew something was off, she said. The way he talked to you sometimes like you were stupid, it always bothered me. By evening, Kevin had called 43 times. His messages had evolved from angry to desperate to threatening. You're making a huge mistake. This will ruin both of us. Think about what you're doing. I didn't respond to any of it. Saturday morning, a locksmith changed all the locks on our house. I'd consulted with Victoria first, completely legal once the temporary orders were in place, which they were as of Friday afternoon. Kevin showed up Saturday evening, furious when his key didn't work. He pounded on the door. Rachel, open this door, this is my house too. I called the police, as Victoria had instructed. They arrived within 10 minutes, informing Kevin that the temporary orders gave me exclusive use of the residence. He'd need to collect his belongings with police supervision at a scheduled time. Watching through the window as Kevin argued with the officers, I felt nothing. No guilt, no sadness, just a cold satisfaction that my plan was working. Sunday, the real storm began. Kevin's attorney filed an emergency motion, claiming I'd illegally locked Kevin out of his own home and stolen marital assets. Victoria laughed when she called to tell me. He's grasping at straws. Wait until Monday's hearing. The judge will see right through this. Monday morning, I dressed carefully in a conservative navy suit. Victoria had emphasized that appearance mattered, that judges noticed everything. The courthouse was intimidating, all marble columns and echoing hallways. Kevin was already there with his attorney, a sharp-faced man named Pierce Hamilton. Kevin looked terrible, unshaven, rumpled suit, eyes red from lack of sleep. We avoided each other until the hearing began. Judge Wallace was a stern woman in her 60s who looked thoroughly unimpressed with everyone. Victoria presented our case methodically, starting with the recording. Your Honor, this audio was recorded legally in Mrs. Morrison's own home. In it, you'll hear Mr. Morrison discussing plans to hide marital assets offshore, manipulate the divorce proceedings, and deceive his wife about their anniversary trip. Kevin's face went from pale to red as his own voice filled the courtroom, speaking in German. The court translator provided English subtitles in real time. Objection, Hamilton jumped up. This recording is out of context and... Overruled, Judge Wallace said crisply. Continue. Victoria then presented Harold's forensic accounting report, detailing every hidden account, every suspicious transfer, every piece of Kevin's financial deception. Judge Wallace studied the documents in silence for several minutes. The courtroom was absolutely quiet except for the sound of pages turning. Finally, she looked up at Kevin. Mr. Morrison, did you or did you not open accounts in Switzerland without your wife's knowledge? Kevin glanced at Hamilton, who nodded reluctantly. Yes, Your Honor, but I was planning to disclose them during property division. I was simply protecting assets. Protecting them from whom? Your wife, who is legally entitled to half. The market was volatile. I wanted to diversify. In secret accounts, using funds from joint accounts. Judge Wallace's tone was withering. Mr. Morrison, I've seen many things in family court, but this level of premeditation is remarkable. She turned to Hamilton. Your emergency motion is denied. In fact, I'm issuing additional orders. All offshore accounts are frozen immediately. Mr. Morrison will provide complete financial disclosure within 10 days, including all account numbers, balances, and transaction histories. He will surrender all passports to the court. Mrs. Morrison retains exclusive use of the marital residence. Kevin's face crumbled. Hamilton tried to object, but Judge Wallace cut him off. We're done here. Next hearing is in 30 days. Outside the courtroom, Kevin tried to approach me. Victoria stepped between us immediately. All communication goes through me, Mr. Morrison. Rachel, please, this is crazy. We can work this out. I met his eyes for the first time since Friday. You were going to leave me with nothing. After 13 years, While I planned our anniversary trip, you were planning to abandon me in a foreign country with no money. That's not, I never meant. You spoke about it in German because you thought I was too stupid to understand. You've been lying for 2 years, Kevin. There's nothing to work out. His face went through several expressions: shock, anger, desperation. You speak German? Since when? Since my grandmother taught me as a child, the grandmother whose inheritance you stole. I turned to Victoria. Let's go. As we walked away, I heard Kevin arguing with Hamilton. His perfect plan had disintegrated because he'd underestimated me. He'd never bothered to really know me, to ask about my family or my skills. To him, I'd been a placeholder, someone to manage his home while he pursued his real life. That afternoon, I returned to work. My colleagues had noticed my absence, and Anne had spread a discreet version of the story. Dr. Sutherland pulled me aside. If you need time off, we can arrange it. Actually, work is exactly what I need right now. And it was. Focusing on clinical trials and patient care gave me purpose beyond the divorce drama. I threw myself into my job with renewed energy. Over the next week, Kevin's life continued unraveling. His firm had placed him on administrative leave pending an internal investigation into the disruption at the office. Chloe had apparently transferred back to Frankfurt suddenly, leaving Kevin without his partner in crime. Victoria called with updates every few days. Kevin's financial disclosure had revealed even more hidden assets. Harold found 2 additional accounts in the Cayman Islands. Your husband was far more devious than we initially thought. The total hidden assets now exceed 1.6 million. Can we recover it all? Every penny. The judge is furious with him. At this point, you're likely to get significantly more than half the marital assets as a penalty for his behavior. Kevin tried reaching out through mutual friends, but I'd warned them all. No communication except through attorneys. He'd had his chance to be honest, and he'd chosen deception instead. 3 weeks after filing, I received a formal settlement offer from Hamilton. Kevin was proposing a 60-40 split in my favor, plus the house, in exchange for dropping all claims of asset concealment. Victoria laughed when she read it. He's terrified. The longer this goes on, the worse it looks for him. Let's counter with 70-30, plus you keep your entire retirement account separate, plus he pays all legal fees. Will he agree? He doesn't have a choice. If this goes to trial, the judge will likely give you 80-20 based on the evidence of fraud. 2 days later, Hamilton accepted our counteroffer with minor modifications. Kevin would pay all legal fees. I'd receive 70% of marital assets, including the house, and my retirement accounts would remain untouched. I signed the agreement in Victoria's office, my hand steady. 13 years of marriage ended with a signature. How do you feel? Victoria asked. Free, I answered honestly. For the first time in years, I feel free. The divorce would be final in 60 days after a mandatory waiting period. Until then, Kevin was prohibited from contacting me directly. I heard through the grapevine that he'd moved into a small apartment downtown, still on leave from work, facing potential disciplinary action from his firm. 6 weeks after filing, the divorce became final. I was alone in Victoria's office when she handed me the decree. Congratulations, Rachel. You handled this with remarkable strength. I had good help. You had good instincts. Recording that conversation, documenting everything, many people would have confronted their spouse immediately and lost their advantage. I thought about that moment in the hallway, hearing Kevin plot in a language he believed I couldn't understand. If I'd confronted him then, he would have accelerated his timeline. Instead, I'd been patient and strategic. That evening, Anne hosted a small celebration dinner at her house. Just close friends and family, people who'd supported me through the process. To new beginnings, Anne toasted, and to never underestimating Rachel again. Everyone laughed, but there was truth in it. For years, I'd let Kevin define our marriage, make the decisions, control the finances. I'd been complicit in my own diminishment. Never again. The next week, I accepted a promotion I'd been offered months ago, assistant director of research. It meant more responsibility and better pay, but also more travel. Previously, I'd have declined, knowing Kevin would complain about my schedule. 3 months post-divorce, I traveled to Berlin for a medical research conference. Walking through the city my grandmother had been born in, hearing German conversations flowing around me, I felt a deep connection to my heritage that I'd suppressed for too long. I visited the neighborhood where my grandmother had lived as a child, stood outside the building she'd described in her stories. She'd fled to America in 1939, building a new life with courage and determination. I came from strong women. I'd forgotten that, lost it somewhere in trying to be the perfect wife to a man who'd never valued me. Back home, life had settled into a new rhythm. I'd redecorated the house, erasing Kevin's presence room by room. The guest room became my home office. The study where I'd overheard that fateful conversation became a reading room filled with my books. I heard through mutual friends that Kevin had been let go from Hoffman and Associates. The firm hadn't appreciated the scandal. He'd found work at a smaller company, taking a significant pay cut. Chloe had apparently moved on to someone else in Frankfurt. His perfect plan had cost him everything: his marriage, his career, his reputation. Meanwhile, I thrived. 1 year after overhearing that conversation, I hosted a dinner party at my house. Anne and her family, Dr. Sutherland and her partner, Victoria Brennan, and several other friends I'd grown closer to during the divorce. During dinner, someone asked how I'd known to record Kevin that day. "Instinct," I said. Something in his voice sounded wrong when I heard him speaking German. I just knew I needed evidence. "The German was brilliant," Victoria said. "He never suspected you understood every word." I smiled, thinking about my grandmother. She taught me language, but also resilience. The strength to wait, to plan, to strike decisively when the moment was right. Kevin had underestimated me because I'd let him. I'd played small, made myself less threatening, accommodated his ego. Never again. As the evening wound down and guests departed, I stood on my front porch looking at the stars. The house was mine. The life was mine. The future was mine. Kevin had tried to take everything, but his greatest mistake was thinking I was helpless. He'd forgotten that still waters run deep, that quiet doesn't mean weak. I'd let him forget, and when the moment came, I'd reminded him exactly who I was. The woman who understood German. The woman who was always 3 steps ahead. The woman who'd rebuilt her life from the ashes of his betrayal into something stronger than before. I went inside, locking the door behind me, smiling at the life I'd reclaimed.